What is going on, guys? In today's video I will show you the top 3 new most broken builds in part of Exile's 2 new update, The Dawn of the Hunt. So in this guide I will give you a quick overview of each setup, then I will explain what skill gems and upgrades should you focus on, then as well we'll see what is the best gear and how to get it, and then finally we will go over the passive skill tree, stats, your skill rotations, and even what charm should you use, so we would be able to get the highest damage possible and much more. Also, if you're interested in buying other PC or console games with 50 or 70% discount, then check out Instant Gaming. For example, I want to buy Elden Ring, so we just click on Add to Cart, then click Pay, then input our details and pay. After payment is complete, we will receive activation key, then copy and paste the key in, and it's that simple. So what are you waiting for? Click my link description and check out Instant Gaming for yourself. The setup revolves around summoning Raging Spirits by casting the Flame Wall and Ember Fusillade, and we are going to be focusing and building around a playstyle that commands a deadly army. We'll use a mix of skeletal snipers, Raging Spirits, and the inert minions that explode on death. Offensive buffs like the Pain Offering and curses such as the Flammability will boost damage, while the Energy Shield and passive nodes will offer us a strong defense. This build requires no unique items, which makes it ideal for solo self-found, and with smooth leveling, capped resistances, and endgame potential, it's perfect for players who love Minion mayhem with amazing survivability and DPS output. So let me show you the build, and for the main class we are going with the Witch and our ascendancy is Lich. Then for the first skill we have Skeletal Warrior with the Maim, Sacrificial Lamb, Infernal Legion and Fire Exposure. Then second we got the Skeletal Arsonist with a Scattershot, Muster, Martial Tempo, Feeding Frenzy and the Minion Mastery. Next we got Skeletal Cleric with Ingenuity, Essence Harvest and the Death March. Next we have Skeletal Sniper with the Binding, Commandment, Corrosion, Primal Armament and Heft. Then for the next one we have Skeletal Storm Mage with the Conduction, Stormfire, Lightning Penetration, Overcharge and Lightning Mastery. Then next we got the Flame Wall with the Arcane Surge, Mobility, Arcane Tempo and Energy Barrier. Then next we have Flammability with Inspiration, Heightened Curse, Curse Ground, Ritualistic Curse and the Magnified Effect. Then also we got the Ember Fusillade with Unleash, Blind and Fast Forward. Next up we have Raging Spirits with the Elemental Focus, Fire Infusion, Last Gasp, Immobilate and Culling Strike. And finally we're using Pain Offering with the Meat Shield, Dance Macabre, Ablation, Persistence and Fawn of Rage. Most of the setup is structured around using our minions to delete enemies in split seconds, so we use gems and skills that will support and increase their duration, size and damage, while the rest are powerful buffs and utility skills that usually get activated in the background. Next up we have our passive tree, and if you're interested in a full in-depth guide on how it works, then check out my beginner guide. So let's take a look at our setup, and we want to start at the spell and minion damage node, and then go like this while taking these two, so the Raw Destruction and the Power of the Dead. Then next go to the right and get all of these three, so Dampening Shield, Pure Energy and Melding. Then from this point we keep on going until the end and get this whole side right here. Next up circle back a little and then take left and keep going until the end. And the order in which you unlock them doesn't really matter, so at this point it's up to you. All of these nodes that we got are very useful, but the ones I mentioned have the top priority, as they're the most important ones to acquire early on in the game, to make our build functional, and then later on, the priority won't really matter that much. And then now, let's go all the way to the middle again, and for Ascendancy build, this is what we have. So at the beginning you want to unlock Necromantic Condiant. And to effectively utilize this node, we need to invest into the mana regeneration and max mana, and this will ensure that the mana drain does not hinder our overall performance. If done properly, this setup can significantly increase our damage and give this one-shot AoE potential. Next we want the Soulless Form. This offers substantial benefits. It requires careful balancing of life and energy shield values. Investing in energy shield will be crucial, as it serves as a buffer that prevents life loss. However, if your energy shield is depleted, then the bypass damage will affect your life, which makes it essential to manage both resources effectively. Then next we want Eternal Life. When we combine this with the Soulless Form, it provides a robust defensive layer, by ensuring that your life remains unchanged as long as you have energy shield remaining. You'll be able to take damage without compromising your life. And finally we got Crystalline Phylactery, which allows us to directly socket in a Javel in our Ascendancy tree. So to get the highest efficiency, we want to equip gear and select passive skills that will boost our energy shield to avoid mana cost penalty. And also we will pair it with other Ascendancy nodes like the Eternal Life, which prevents life loss, while you have Energy Shield or the Eldritch Empowerment, which increases non-channeled spell damage and allows the energy shield to be used as a resource without interrupting its recharge. Next we have gear. The weapon of our choice is the Rattling Scepter with increased spirit. Allies deal more damage, more levels of all minion skills, and allies deal increased attack speed. Then also we got an offhand called the Quartered Crest Shield with armor and energy shield. And for more we want increased block chance, max life, more to all elemental resistances and chaos resistance. Then also we got the second weapon set, and remember that no uniques are required for this setup to work. But for a second weapon, we got the Trench Debris with the adds to physical damage, increased attack speed, more levels to minion skills, and increased to minion attack speed will also affect our character. While for the offhand, we got the Rattling Scepter with more to spirit, more levels of all minion skills, and allies deal more damage to increased attack speed. Then for helmet we have the Kamasan Tiara with the energy shield, increased energy shield, max life, and more levels of all minion skills. Then for chest we have the Sacramental Robe with faster start to energy shield, max energy shield, increased energy shield, more to spirit, more to intelligence and chaos resistance. Then for belt we have the Fine Belt with max life, max mana, more to charm slots and chaos resistance. Then for gloves we got the Val gloves with energy shield, and for bonus stats we want max and increased energy shield, max life, and more to fire and chaos resistance. Then for boots we're using the Sandsworn sandals with energy shield, and for more we want increased movement speed, max and increased energy shield, and more to fire and chaos resistance. Then for our first ring we got the Venter's Gamble with max life, more to spirit, and fire, cold, and lightning resistance. While for the second one we have the Topaz ring with the lightning resistance, max life, fire, and lightning resistance. And then finally for amulet we have the Jade amulet with dexterity, max and increased energy shield, more to spirit, and more to levels of all minion skills. No matter which gear you choose, just at least try to get 75% resistance cap on all 4 elements. This is the best case scenario setup, which should be more of an example of what stats and prefixes to look for. And now finally, let's quickly take a look at how this build will work. So we want to begin our fights by casting the Flame Wall, which serves as a dual purpose. It will ignite nearby enemies and summon 2 raging spirits. These fiery minions will immediately launch into action, targeting anything caught in the blaze. Next, you want to use the Skeletal Sniper's command ability to launch a deadly gas arrow. This projectile is particularly lethal against enemies already burning, and upon impact with the ignited target it will detonate a volatile explosion, which deals heavy area damage and spreading further chaos. Then next we follow that up by casting Flame Wall once again, which will summon 2 additional raging spirits. These fresh minions will bolster our offense and keep the pressure on the enemies, especially when fighting larger packs or elite targets. Then next we cast Ember Fusillade, which will bring forth 2 more raging spirits. This will add to our ever-growing minion horde and ensure a steady wave of attacks from multiple angles. Then to supercharge minions for tougher encounters we want to cast Pen Offering. This powerful skill will grant a significant damage boost to all of our minions, which makes it especially effective during boss fights, or when facing rare enemies with higher health pool. And finally, to weaken high priority targets, we want to cast Despair. This curse will reduce the chaos resistance of cursed enemies, ensuring that your minions deal even more damage. So, this endgame build will utilize the Skeletal Frost Mages by buffing them insanely high, so then in return we can do huge amount of damage. They also can freeze enemies and bosses, which will make very hard content a walk in the park. This build's greatest strength is its primary defense, so we will have a massive amount of energy shield, and by using the Grim Feast we will double it, so in the endgame we will be able to reach up to 13,000 energy shield. On top of this, our setup's playstyle will allow you to clear quite aggressively, while still being able to pull back and let your enemies protect you from the enemies whenever needed. If you are looking for very OP but passive gameplay, where most of the work is done by your minions, then this is the build for you. So let me show you the build, and for the main class, I have chosen to go with the Witch and our ascendancy is Infernalist. Then for the first skill we have the Skeletal Frost Mages with the support gems such as the Arcane Tempo, Scatter Shot, Feeding Frenzy, Vault Shards, and the Cold Mastery. Then second we get the Skeletal Storm Mage with Conduction, Stormfire, Lightning Penetration, and the Overcharge. Then next we got Skeletor Cleric with Ingenuity, Last Gasp, and the Minion Mastery. Next we have Pen Offering with Persistence, Ablution, Inspiration, and Fan of Rage. Next up we have the Hypothermia with a Heightened Curse, Spell Cascade, and Focus Curse. Next we got Frost Bomb with a Spell Cascade, Fan of Mana, Fan of Blood, and the Strip Away. Next we got the Green Feast with the Clarity. Next we have Summon Infernal Hound with a Meat Shield, Maim, Culling Strike, Fire Exposure and the Fire Mastery. And finally for the last one we are using the Sigil of the Power with the Magnified effect. Most of this setup is structured around using our Skeletal Frost mages to delete enemies in seconds. So we use gems and skills that will support and increase their defense and damage, while the rest are powerful buffs and utility skills that usually get activated in the background. Next up we have our passive tree, and if you are interested in a full in-depth guide on how it works, then check out my beginner guide. So let's take a look at our setup, and we want to start at the spell and minion damage node, and go like this while taking the raw destruction and the power of the dead. Then next we want to move to the right and get all of these three, so pure energy, dampening shield and the living dead, as well as get this whole circle. Then afterwards we keep on going while taking necrotized flesh and relentless fallen. Then next we go like this, and then from this point take the left path and take all of these nodes. And then from this point and onwards you can go here up to the top and just unlock all the other nodes in whatever order you prefer. Also keep in mind that all of these nodes that we got are very useful, but the ones I mentioned have the top priority, as they are the most important ones to acquire early on in the game, to make our build functional, and then in the late game to make it even more powerful. And then now let's go all the way to the middle again, and for Ascendancy build, this is what we have. So at the beginning you want to unlock the Loyal Hellhound for that minion skill and 20% reduced damage. Then second we get Altered Flesh. This will help out in dealing with physical damage if you have chaos resistance, or when you start stacking maximum fire damage, then you will take less cold and lightning damage. Then for our third pick we have the Berat's Will. This will give us more maximum spirit, but in return it will reduce our life by 25%. This might seem like a huge debuff, but it's 100% worth it, because of how insanely high we have our energy shield stacked up. And then finally for the last one we got the Berat's Hand. So feel free to use the exact same path as I have right here. And don't forget to check this video's description to find the link for this website, and this should make it easier for you to follow the tree. Next up we have our Atlas passives, and the general idea behind this is to aim for bonus passives that spawn a lot of grouped up monsters, such as in expeditions or in rituals. So when we start we wanna first of all go to the left side and get all of these nodes, and then go down until you get to this keystone called the Deadly Evolution. And then from this point and onwards you can unlock the rest of the nodes in whatever order you want. But then on top of this we have even more passives. Which order in which you unlock them doesn't matter, so this time it's up to you. And this is how it should look like for the ritual. Then next we have the Delirium. Then third we have the bosses, and then on top of that we have the pinnacle bosses. Then next we also have our expedition setup, and then finally our breach setup. Next we have our gear. The weapon of our choice is the Rattling Scepter. This is one of the most important items as it will increase our minions' damage. However, if you prefer more damage over using a shield for passive block chance, then you can wield a scepter together with a spiked club, for that extra levels to all minion skills. And for bonus stats we want to get more to spirit, max mana and plus levels of all minion skills. Then also for the offhand we got the advanced Omen Crest Shield with a block. And for stats we want max energy shield, more to spirit and chaos resistance. Pretty much for this one we want a high energy shield and armor base. And a really good unique to acquire early on is the Oak Sworn. However, you can later on replace it with other options that give you 2 sockets or even more to spirit. Then for the helmet we have the Expert Feather Tiara with the energy shield. And for more we want max energy shield, max life and plus levels to all minion skills. Then for chest we have the Expert Altar Robe with the energy shield. And for more we got even more energy shield, more to spirit, as well as fire and cold resistance. Then for belt we have the Fine Belt with the faster flask recovery. And for more we want max life, max mana and more to charm slots. Then for gloves we got the Expert Interested Gloves with the energy shield. And for more we want even more max energy shield, max life and chaos resistance. Then for boots we're using the Expert Feather Sandals with the energy shield. And for more we need increased movement speed, max energy shield, as well as chaos and lightning resistance. Then for the first ring we got the Prismatic Ring with more to all elemental resistances. And for the extra stats we got max mana, max life, and again even more percentage to all elemental resistances. Well then for the second one we have the Amethyst Ring, as this is a very easy place to get even more chaos resistance. And for more we got max mana, adds physical damage to attacks and cold and fire resistance. And then finally for the amulet we have the Lunar Amulet with a lot of max energy shield. And for more we want more to spirit, more levels to all minion skills, as well as chaos resistance. No matter which gear you choose, just at least try to get 75% resistance cap on all 4 elements. This is a starter setup, which would be more of an example of what stats and prefixes to look for. And now finally, let's quickly take a look at how this build will work. And as you can see from the gameplay, this is one of the easiest and simplest builds in the game. At all times our minions are going to be active, so then all we need to do is run around the map while simply using the pain offering, then hypothermia, and then from here just spam the frost bombs, and that's about it. As I said at the start, this build is very simple, and for weak enemies, you won't really have to do anything besides run into them and then the minions will do the rest. However, what I usually like to do is also keep spamming the Sigil of the Power as soon as it's up, and it will give us a nice simple buff to increase our DPS even more. And then finally, especially in the beginning when you're not geared enough and sometimes may die, then make sure that your elemental resistances are at 75%. Furthermore, make sure that your specific items that you have equipped will give you as much energy shield as possible. This setup is known as the Bonestorm Witch build, and this skill by itself is a slow clearing ability, but with the right gems, passives and synergies, we can make it 100 times better, and this is exactly what we have right here. This build also has 2 variants, so going full crit chance, what I will personally be doing for myself, or then perhaps go with the detonate a dead variant. Both of these will excel at different things, so which one you choose is up to you. This variant, so the full crit chance setup, excels at huge amount of damage. We won't be focusing on anything else besides the massive crits and stacking as much life as possible, because the more life/defense we have, the more damage we can do in return. Also, at some point in the later game, some lowered gear players might run into a mana problem, but lucky for us, the witch has many tools to address this problem. And with optimized gear, we need nothing more than a single stat roll on our weapon or the gear to completely solve this issue. So if you are finally looking for a super fun blood mage build that primarily doesn't use the life leech, but instead goes full life and full crit, then this is the one for you. So let me show you the build, and for the main class I have chosen to go with the witch, and our ascendancy is the blood mage. Then for the first skill we have the Bonestorm with support gems such as the brutality, arcane tempo, inevitable critical and the super critical. Then second we got the Bone Cage with the spell cascade, lockdown and the splinter. Then next we got the life remnant with the vitality, clarity and the cannibalism. Then next we have the combat frenzy with the perfusion, pin and the potential. And finally for the last one we got the Bone Blast with no support gems. Next up we have our passive tree, and if you are interested in a full in-depth guide on how it works, then check out my beginner guide. So let's take a look at our setup, and we want to start at the spell and minion damage increase node. Then next we want to keep on going like this until we get to our first stop, which is the potent incantation. Then now keep on going to the right side to get this critical exploit. Then now we circle back a little and keep going like this until we get the sudden escalation. Then now from this point we go down like this, then take the right path and keep going until this point, and then keep going all the way up until the tempered mind. Then next we go down a bit and then take right, which will take us all the way to our first keystone, the resonance. Then from this point we want to circle back again and simply get the last 2 priority nodes called the power within and the last 4 power. And then finally from this point and onwards you can unlock the rest of the nodes in whatever order you prefer. All of the nodes that we got are important, but the ones I mentioned have the top priority, as they're the most important ones to acquire early on in the game, to make our build functional, and then in the late game to make it even more powerful. Also, as far as attributes go, so you just simply want to fill your attribute requirements for the gear and skill gems, and then after that spend the rest of your leftover attributes into more strength. And then now let's go all the way to the middle again, and for Ascendancy build this is what we have. So at the beginning you want to unlock the Sangumancy, but please don't get it too early. This node is required for every blood mage, and this ability does ton of self damage, and it can be quite hard to mitigate this in the early game. So I recommend for you to wait until you complete your second trial, and then take your first and second Ascendancy at the same time. So then after the second trial you want to get the Grasping Wounds. This one will make you significantly tankier and synergize very well with the Sangumancy. So as I said before, get both these Ascendancies at the same time. Then next, take the Gore Spike. This will scale off your maximum life and is a big damage boost. And then finally for the fourth option you want to take the Crimson Power. as this will give you a massive energy shield body armor, and this will also scale really well with our previous gore spike. Next up we have our Atlas passives, and the general idea behind this is to aim for bonus passives that spawn a lot of grouped up monsters, such as in expeditions or the rituals. Our Bonestorm Blood Mage build won't be doing crazy amount of damage against single targets, so we mainly want to do very small farming in boss maps or the essences. So then when we start, we wanna first of all get this bottom right side like this, then from here go like this until we get all the way to the left side. And then when all of these passives are done, then now we go again to the middle, and now take the middle path and then go a bit to the left again and get all of these nodes. Then next we have our gear. The weapon of our choice is the attuned wand with the mana drain, and for the extra bonuses we want increased spell damage, plus 3 levels to all physical spell skills, then also increased critical hit chance, and more percentage to critical damage bonus. Next we also have the offhand called the Emblem Crest Shield, with the armor and energy shield. This specific shield is the best job that I got, but it's not required. However, for bonuses we want max life, cold and fire resistance. Remember that our main goal is to stack as much life and resistances as possible, so that's why you will see few stats repeating all over again. Then for the helmet we have the Expert Vigor Tiara with the energy shield, and for more we want max life, cold and fire resistance. Then for the chest we have the Guild Vestments with the armor and energy shield. And for bonus stats we need max life, evasion rating and the fire resistance. Then for the belt we have the Rawhide belt with the increased recovery to the flask, and for the extras we want max life, lightning and chaos resistance. Then for the gloves we got the Torn gloves with the energy shield, and for more we want max life, increased armor and evasion. Then for boots we're using the Bushwhack with the evasion. For this build we will need to get these boots or use the pin gem on our combat frenzy. So which option you prefer, it's up to you. But if you have the pin, then the boots are not required, but still very powerful. So get it or not, but at least go with as high movement speed as possible. Then also get evasion rating and more to dexterity. Then for the first ring get the ruby ring with fire resistance, and for more we want max life, lightning and chaos resistance. While on the second one we got the sapphire ring with cold resistance, and for more get max life, fire or lightning resistance. And finally for the amulet get the solar amulet with more to spirit and max life. No matter which gear you choose, at least try to get 75% resistance cap on all 4 elements. And now finally let's quickly take a look at how this build will work. Our main rotation will be the same, no matter if you choose to go with the full crit or the detonator variant. So for weak enemies we simply want to choose a target, and then just spam the Bonestorm with the Bone Cage. And then for bosses or elites we still do the same thing, just this time also integrate the Bone Blast with the Bonestorm and the Bone Cage, and it's that easy. Most of our buffs will work in the background, which will give us the real damage, so then all you have to do is get used to the mechanics, which are mainly to use the channeling trick, then to be kiting enemies 24/7 and pick up the life remnants. And then from here just spam the Bonestorm and the Bone Cage and have fun.